Notice is hereby given that the Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing for the purposes of gathering public comment on revisions to the stormwater and erosion control bylaw regulations and the Walpole Wetland Protection Bylaw regulations. The public hearing on the above matter will be held in the Walpole Town Hall, 135 School Street, Walpole, Mass. On January 22nd, 2020, beginning at 7 p.m. All interested persons are requested to be present. So we have some things that are on a list here, Landis generated, but we weren't gonna come to any big conclusions, because 2 members aren't here tonight, but we thought we would brainstorm a little bit about some things that we might wanna see tightened up or changed in wording. So, couple of things that I was especially interested in was getting some wording on winter delineations. And I went and looked at what some other towns are doing and found quite a lot of really tight wording on that topic. Some towns are really explicit. They say we don't have any delineations between this month and that month. Some say we don't have delineations generally in winter weather or in the winter season. They say that there are exceptions, but the exceptions seem to be on a case-by-case basis, like maybe if there's some really distinctive feature that you could delineate.
Right.
So I like that idea,
That makes sense.
yeah.
I like that.
And actually I was surprised, now that I know that it's routine in some towns, that we wouldn't have it.
Right.
I mean, imagine going out now to try to
Yeah.
dig a hole and look for soils.
So can we borrow some wording from another, yeah?
Yeah, it looks like everyone's using similar wording, right, Landis?
Yeah, Betsy provided some different choices from different communities, which I can send out
Yeah.
to commissioners, but it looked like it came from the DEP's guidance for wetlands delineation, so that's
Yeah.
where they got the language from.
Yeah, and it's pretty recent language, so maybe one at a time towns are picking it up, so I just think we should do it. So that's a thought. We'll see what Al and Jack say.
I like that.
And I like the idea of taking another look at our 25-foot no alteration and just making sure that's as tight as we'd like to have it, so that if there's anything in the wording that needs to be clarified. And Landis, you suggested 50-foot for vernal pools. We don't have that written down. Okay.
I think a lot of times we look at 25, but we don't use it as a minimum of 25. We don't. We always say it's 25.
Yeah.
But do you know what I mean? You brought that up before.
I know, I thought it was said minimum, but I re-reviewed our regulations, and it doesn't say minimum, but it says, this is,
Yeah.
there shall be 25 foot no
Okay,
alteration.
so that's something we can.
But you could always
Right.
say, unless, use some kind of wordings to open it up for additional if need be, but I think I've always recommended for vernal pools that it be 50.
Mhm. Okay.
When you talk about vernal pool, a minimum of 50 feet of vernal pools. Is there any particular size to a vernal pool? I mean, how big, how small does it have to be? How big with the pool itself?
Well, I think the criteria of vernal pool that it has to fill for a certain amount of time during the year so it can support the species that use it for reproduction in the spring. So I think it would be whatever the definition of a vernal pool would be.
Okay, you wouldn't want to make that bigger for some types of pools that may be larger or more activity?
We can discuss that. I think at this point, we're just bringing up subjects that we want to maybe delve in a little further on
Yeah.
to customize the appropriate language that we want to incorporate into the regulations.
So we can look and see what some towns are saying about vernal pools
Yeah.
and maybe grab some of their language.
Sure.
I was amazed with finding that 25 foot is about the minimum regulation that a lot of towns have. Weren't you surprised to see that table?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like, and then to find out that Al has 50 foot no build.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right.
Down in Norwood you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the agent in Norwood. So
Right.
that's
Some
interesting.
people break it out,
Yeah.
no build and no alteration.
Right.
So there's a difference between
Right.
putting a structure or putting
Putting-
nothing.
Yeah, you could put a lawn maybe in, but not a, we could discuss it just to see how the discussion went.
Something to consider, yeah.
And then what's the M50, MS for, stormwater
Right, so
compliance with
originally,
MS4?
I had brought up the incorporating the changes that are required under the MS4 stormwater permit into the regulations. So there are a few changes. I did get an email from Neponset River Watershed Association, there's Neponset Stormwater Group, kind of breaking down the changes that they recommend, either adopting a stormwater bylaw or incorporating into your existing stormwater bylaw. And I just got that today, and I just started to read over it. So I think she breaks them out in a good way. Because there are some things that it seems like the regulations are asking people to put in their regulations, but I haven't really heard anyone else doing that yet. So they might be waiting until DEP changes their DEP stormwater regulations to comply. Because right now there's a difference between what EPA is requiring and what DEP is requiring. And my understanding was DEP was going to come in line with EPA. So if that happens, that would be automatic because we reference the DEP stormwater standards in the bylaw, so it would be whatever the revision was.
Huh.
So that would be, so, but there was a couple other things that she was suggesting to tighten up the stormwater and erosion control bylaw to come in compliance with
Yeah.
MS4. So I
And does
look
that
at that.
include Al's, remember the whole discussion?
We already did that.
We
so
did that,
that's
so
in
that's-
there.
That's done, okay, fine, okay.
Yeah, and that's something
Oh,
that,
Yeah.
yeah, as far as using
The
the
new
NRC
calculations, yeah.
data, a lot of communities have been doing that for
Okay.
a long time.
Okay, so we got that.
that
okay.
is just kind of long past due.
Right.
that we did that, so that's all set.
All right, anything anyone else can think of that might go on to a list that we then bring up?
I just wanted to comment a little bit more about the winter delineations. I think what you're saying, that there might be exceptions where you say, well, we really need to try to figure this out even though it's heart of winter. And apparently other towns will have acted on that too. I'm wondering if there are any examples where there was regret that they forced a decision during the winter months and later discovered they probably shouldn't have done it that way. Were any towns have any regrets of trying to delineate during the winter? Because obviously that's very difficult to do.
So you're wondering if perhaps they accepted a delineation in the winter time
Yes.
that then they felt was wrong later on?
Once things thawed out, it was like, well, we shouldn't have done it that way.
Yeah, I'm not sure how one would get that information
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
I know when you do delineation and commission does the verification either under an ORAD or a order of conditions, it's good for 3 years. So, so there could be regrets, but
Yeah.
there's nothing that you can do about
Yeah.
it. But I think that it seems like DEP supports in their guide to wetlands delineation. It seemed to be December through April
Yeah.
were times.
Yeah.
And my rule of thumb, my understanding always been, when you're delineating wetlands or when you're verifying wetlands, you're looking at hydrology, soil, and vegetation. So, and people rely much more heavier on soils now.
Yeah.
If you can't get an auger in the ground, you can't verify
Yeah.
the soil.
Yeah.
So you just simply can't verify the wetlands. So, most of the botanists understand that. I always say that, if I go out to verify a wetlands and we can't look at the soils, it can't be done. So
Right.
whatever would be filed, there would be insufficient information to rule on it. And I think it is good to have a policy or it in your regulations, just so people know, because the more information like that we have for developers or other applicants to know, they can plan. They can plan ahead. Okay, the Walpole Conservation Commission doesn't want delineations between December
Right.
and April.
Right.
But perhaps if there's exception and there's a particular warm area time and it's possible to get out there, it's a small project, then I think there should be, you know, some kind of a ability if need be. Like just recently, I did review 2 major projects, but it was still warm, there was a lot of water. It actually turned out to be a really good time to be out there because there was so much standing water everywhere that you could really see where the water was flowing.
Okay.
So you can make those exceptions.
Yeah.
if, sure.
Yeah, it should be and that's what I read over some of the stuff that Betsy had provided, and there were.
They always
you know,
say
there's
you
wiggle-
can make an
There's always a
exception.
wiggle room.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
fine.
Any other ideas for things that we could? So when Al gets back, but we should wait till when Jack gets back too. So we're not discussing this again until Jack gets back?
I would suggest waiting till March. I don't think that's that long, the second meeting in March, which it seems like it comes so quickly. And in the meantime, I'll gather as much information as possible on these items that we've discussed tonight. Maybe get some recommendations from town council if there's some way to shore up our language, or if we even need to, if it's okay. And then have that ready for March.
All right.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, so another topic before we have our hearing is peer review of Pinnacle Point. So Landis.
Hold on, are you gonna continue, are you gonna make a motion to
Oh,
continue that?
oh, sorry. Okay, wait a minute.
Yeah,
So I'm
so
making a
continue.
motion, okay, I want to move to continue this discussion on the bylaws,
Yes.
Regulations,
Second.
bylaw regulations.
bylaw regulation. You seconded that? Okay.
Second.
Okay.
Who
Oh,
did it first? You and Roger? Okay.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So that's to March,
25th
March 25th.
So
at
four-
7 PM? You always open and continue it.
7 PM?
Yeah.
Okay.
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 What was the date?
March, the second meeting in March, I'm not sure.
Okay, and next topic, Landis, the Pinnacle Point.
Yep, so we have an application coming up for our next meeting, which is an ANRAD on Pinnacle Point resource areas that I would recommend hiring a peer reviewer for.
Mhm.
Do we have a plan to look at of it, or can you describe it? It's riverfront versus pond front, right?
Well, without getting into the merits of the project, because I feel like we shouldn't do that,
Okay.
because the applicant isn't here and it's not a public hearing
Yeah.
on the project
Yeah.
itself.
Okay.
But it is an NRAD, so abbreviated Notice of Resource Area Delineation, to review the wetlands and the floodplain out there. It's along the Neponset River, also known as Bird Pond. So just wanted to take a good look at the resources out there and have a consultant's knowledge to review the NRAD.
So do you have someone in mind that,
I
are
did.
you- like, how are you moving on this, or what?
I have moved on it. I did get a quote from Beta, so I just wanted the commission to okay that process. And you know, what I would do is notify the applicant that the commission agreed to hire a peer reviewer and that I have a quote, and
Okay.
let them know.
So we vote on that? That we
Yeah,
agree
just,
to that?
you don't have to, but it always.
Do we have
I-
to know
I-
what the fee is before we vote?
All I'm asking is it okay to look into hire a peer reviewer?
Oh,
Okay.
So then we might have 2 or 3 quotes that we'd be discussing at some point?
We can if you prefer that.
It seems like sometimes we've got 2 quotes, or.
I can get
three.
more than one quote. if
Yeah.
that's-
It
That's
might-
usually a good thing.
All right.
I'll make that motion to,
Just look into hiring a peer
Yes.
reviewer
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
Pinnacle.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, second?
Sure.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great.
4-0-0.
Thanks.
All right. So while we're still waiting for our first hearing, do we want to look at the minutes? Yeah. Do we want to approve the minutes?
I'll move them.
Someone want to second the minutes? or make comments on the
Yeah,
minutes?
so it's like,
Second, all right. Doug, are you ready to vote?
I gotta be honest, I hadn't had a chance to review them. Were these sent, oh,
Yep.
then, sorry, I did see the ones that you sent, so I found them to be acceptable.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Opposed? Abstained? 400. We are gonna say something about certificates of compliance, but end up not, I think, signing anything. But do you wanna say something about those, Landis?
Sure. So the first request for a certificate of compliance is for the Manzo Company on West Street parking lot. And that's across from the new building going up on West Street and the train station. And almost everything is complete except that along West Street, there's supposed to be a grass swale to convey stormwater to the grate, and it's just mulch, and so it needs to be grass because it's just, the mulch is just moving around, and
Right.
so they realize that, so that it needs to be stabilized, so I just recommend tabling it until they can
Okay.
grass it.
Yep.
Got it.
And then the second one has been on our agenda for a couple of meetings, and same thing, it's 263 Lincoln Road, and everything seems to be complete except that the backyard is not stabilized yet because it hasn't been seeded and grassed. It's just dirt,
Okay.
so that's tabled too.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right, and then another thing that we can do in the next 15 minutes is look at the Walpole Woodworkers minor modification. Is that
No, that's
actually?
scheduled.
Oh, that's actually scheduled.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, what do I have here?
There's board comments for 1363,
Okay.
1391 Main Street.
Okay, yeah, let's do that.
Which is, that's Leo's, right?
Yes.
And is that on the card somewhere?
Yeah, should be.
Oh,
So-
okay,
1363, 1391 Main Street is
Yep.
Leo's Pizza. And the proposed, this is before the planning board,
No. Sorry.
zoning? Okay, it didn't say. They are proposing to take the building down and put up a new one. I don't know what they're doing.
oh, really?
We're gonna take the building down, keep the bottom commercial, and then put the second and third floors as residential units.
Mhm.
So we'll be constructing a new building. There is a little wetlands area at the corner of the lot. I don't know if anyone wants to see this or not. There's just one plan. There is a little isolated wetlands at the corner of the lot, which is behind Dunkin' Donuts and the flower shop back there. So they will be filing with us as well. Where part of the buffer zone is on their lot. We'll be looking at stormwater.
All right, so,
So I just let the
Yeah.
zoning board know that they'll
Yeah.
be filing with us.
okay, we'll point out, this is why we have hearings every 5 minutes, by the way, but I'll just editorialize that out.
I thought that maybe we'd be able to stick the last one in there, but.
Okay, all right, so you want to say something about enforcement orders?
Sure,
And then,
nothing's happened.
yeah, but,
So, 1900 Main Street enforcement order is still on hold. There is other action being taken by the town, so sort of letting that play out at the moment before involving other court involvement through Concom. So I think that's really the best way to go right now.
Okay.
And then.
whereas at the last meeting, we had said, let's start another round of
Right,
fines.
right.
But since there are other things,
Okay.
I haven't
Yeah.
issued that yet, and so I'm sort of partially because once we issue it and they don't pay it, then we have to go to court, and we're taking another avenue that involves town council when there's other avenues being approached at the moment, so.
Okay.
We can still do that, it's okay to do that, but I suggest we wait.
All right.
Board and Estates, again, so there's the action being taken, and that's still pending.
Well, you were saying something about trying to get it dismissed, right? Oh, is that not to be said? Okay, Gladys, I don't know. Fine.
It's a legal matter, so
Okay,
I was keeping it sort of in the legal realm.
Okay.
But town council is on that and working
Mhm.
towards resolving the issue.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
And
All right.
the application for 40B for 55 Main Street was filed with the zoning board of appeals, so that is,
Wait,
that process will be starting soon.
Wait, 55 Main Street?
55 Summer Street, I mean.
55
Yeah.
Summer
Yep.
Street.
Oh, okay.
And then eventually filing as well. To look forward to.
How many
Okay.
units is that now? 300?
240 rental and 60 ownership.
On Summer Street?
Yeah, down near the railroad tracks?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot of land there.
Yeah.
Okay, and then next week, next meeting, February 12th, we have the Pinnacle Point application, the ANRAD, and then we have a notice of intent for Walsh Brother Building for a single-family house on the 300 Stone Street.
Next to the night shopping.
That's for the February 12th, yeah.
All right, so,
There's one more that came in today for 100 Rustic.
Oh, yeah, 100 Rustic.
all right, so so we have to schedule that, the 100 Rustic for next
Oh.
week?
No, she'll schedule it.
It's scheduled, these were
Okay.
printed prior to
Okay,
it coming in today.
just don't make them a half an hour apart.
Nope, there's
So
15
we're
minutes.
gonna find out in about 30 seconds why.
7:22. so-
Okay, so now we're having an 8-minute break until our
Is Brookside-
7:30 hearing.
Brookside?
I don't know.
Okay.
The 300 Stone Street for next meeting, it's missing the DEP number? Is that because we don't know it, or?
It's not issued yet.
Oh, okay, pending, okay.
Right.
I don't know if there's enough time, probably not enough time to take
Oh, for what?
Brookside Village.
Oh, wait a minute, was there something else what is it?
It's the discussion, so is Brookside Village here yet? No, okay, they're not here yet, so it's not an issue.
Okay. But we may be fitting, so give us a hint about what that is. So, what?
They requested to
Oh,
come
oh,
and
okay.
have a discussion
Oh,
with the
Brookside Village, the
commission.
one off of Pine Street?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
yeah, so
Yeah.
they're after everything else.
We're too efficient.
I know, right?
Maybe you should be chair.
Whoa.
That was because we had a half hour
I know.
to do all sorts of things.
Talent.
I'm sure I'm sure he'll watch.
Oh, the fry burgers.
Is there like maybe a folder for the 7:30 that I should, like,
Yeah, I'll get it for you.
Okay.
Do you need?
Yeah.
It's West Street, right?
Yep. So is this one where I need to ask if green cards have been? Or the person should hand us green cards? Or the person already had? So we have some comments. Our chair, we're gonna have, every 2 minutes, we're gonna have,
OHW stand for?
every 5 minutes then. We'll have a,
Kind of service,
hearing. I've never,
Some
ever,
don't even schedule.
Pipes.
well, if you have to have it at exact time, do you have to have it?
HW.
Wait a minute.
It's at 7.
Oh.
7 o'clock.
Well, then can we put that onto our list of things to discuss?
I'll have to take it up with the chair.
I am the frickin' chair.
He's the, you input the regulations, it's just,
Okay.
he's the one that likes to schedule things at particular times.
Okay, well, that's interesting.
Wait, but wasn't your, well, I think it was actually your idea to schedule from 7 to 7:30.
No.
Oh, I believe it is.
Oh,
and
no.
There's tape to prove it.
Oh, I will
Let's go
review
to-
that tape.
Let's go to the
It was
tape.
in the main meeting room.
I
That
said
had to
that?
happen the holiday right before Christmas.
I said that?
You did.
I remember that, yes.
I'm really sorry.
Sure.
Well, did we know at that point that Al was not gonna be here?
No,
'Cause
no.
We didn't seem to mind just Jack being down, but then
I'm not even sure
both
that,
were being
I'm
down
not even
because-
sure we knew Jack wasn't gonna be here. I don't think he told us until,
Well-
he usually tells us like,
He takes the same time
Yeah,
every
he
year.
does.
oh, okay. No, we did not know Al was not
No.
gonna be here, so I figured it could go a good long time.
Maybe Jack just wasn't like thinking about.
I thought I
him
remember we
leaving.
talking about Jack not being here, it was, he said it was okay, but.
Yeah.
They came back to my schedule. That doesn't surprise me.
Stuck on 1 o'clock for about a month, wasn't it?
All right. So, in accordance with the Massachusetts General,
7:30.
oh, God, it's 7:29.
You have to wait till 7:30.
Doggone it. Rookie.
That's for the people that walk in at the last second, you know?
All right, let me know when I can start, Landis.
Okay, my Fitbit's now on running. What is it? 7:30?
It's 7:29.
Okay. Can't get it off at running.
It's 7:30.
Oh, great. In accordance with the Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and the Town of Walpole Wetlands Protection Bylaw, notice is hereby given to the intent of Michael Freiberger for tree removal and the addition of clean fill material in the buffer zone to the BVW at 965 West Street, Walpole. Plans are on file at the Conservation Commission office. Public hearing on the above matter will be held in the Walpole Town Hall, 135 School Street, on January 22nd, 2020, beginning at 7:30 PM. All interested persons are requested to be present. And are there green cards from abutters? And I'll start with some comments from boards that we've gotten. Planning board has no comment. The town engineer has reviewed the plan and offers the following recommendations, that the proposed grading appears to extend beyond the proposed erosion control line. Either adjust the erosion control line or adjust the grading so that all the work is within the erosion control. Second, the proposed slopes at the northeast and northwest edge of the fill are 2-to-1 and 1.5-to-1 slope respectively. Standard slope for loam and seed should not exceed 3-to-1. Either the slopes may be reduced, or the commission could require jute netting or some other stabilization technique to hold the proposed slope in place. And thirdly, the loam should be at a minimum 4 inches in thickness, and the work should be finished and seeded during the normal growing season. So do you need a copy of these comments?
No, I got them.
Okay.
The area that's marked outside the silt fence, that was just a graphical error with
Oh,
the engineers, no worries there. As far as the slope.
Oh, actually, don't start with that yet. Let me do the Board of Health, and then Landis will make some comments, and
Okay.
then the board will, and then you can, oh, no, I'm sorry, then you can present, and then Landis will make some comments. Board of Health, at its January 7th, 2020 meeting, voted unanimously that the board has no immediate concerns regarding the work being proposed under the notice of intent. However, the possibility of that area being used to install a swimming pool in the future, the board asks that the existing septic system be flagged now so that there is no damage to it as fill is being added. Also, should the owner decide to proceed with the pool, they would be required to comply with all septic system setback requirements and take appropriate measures to prevent pool runoff from entering into the wetlands by installing drains around the pool to capture runoff, storing all pool chemicals away from the 100-foot buffer zone, and only discharge rechlorinated pool water from the pool while draining. Is there a pool on this?
I don't see it.
Okay, so this is something that the Board of Health is anticipating.
Yeah, potentially down the road, but 7, 8.
All right, so if you could identify yourself and,
I'm
Who's
Mike
that?
Freiberger, this is my wife, Diana Freiberger. So yes, we've developed this plan, like I said, to more or less extend the backyard space. Off the back of the house, it slanted down pretty drastically. And so what we wanted to do was remove a layer of trees, build up the grade, and then block up with a row of green giant arborvitaes off the back side to block out the drain, because it's visible from the back windows. And then abutting the house, we're actually doing an outdoor kitchen and patio, and then long-term, that's where the pool came up, potentially down the road, 7 to 8 years, putting a pool in. Backside of the pool would basically all be grass. The slope side going down to the silt fence and hay wattle would actually be 3-to-1 or less, and it would actually be a riprap barrier, ground cover, or it would be lawn all the way around. Septic is visible right now, actually, the 2 tank lids, and then it actually leaches back towards, away from the project, rather than back towards where the fill zone is. So nothing is being filled over the top of the septic as it currently lies now. That's more or less it for now, I guess, project-wise. Any questions with it?
do you want to make some comments, Meredith?
Sure, so I went out and took a look at the site, observed the wetlands line to the closest one to the fill area. As the commissioners will notice, the majority of the work is actually outside of the buffer zone. The buffer zone just kind of takes in the corners of the activity that's being proposed, but he's filing a notice of intent. He did mention this work and potentially a pool in the future, but it looks like probably the pool will also be outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. So he's kind of gone over and beyond what would be required under the bylaw or the Wetlands Protection Act. But with situations like this, I always recommend filing a notice of intent just so that we have something recorded at the Registry of Deeds, because there is a fair amount of wetlands out here. And so my understanding is the area their fill is brought in, then it'll be graded, and then it'll be loamed and seeded.
Yeah, probably
And
8 to 10 inches.
Are you
long.
going to put some riprap along the
On the
slope?
backside, yeah.
On the backside of the slope to stabilize it. And so the 198, which crosses over the erosion troll, is
Yeah, it's just
not
an error
there.
on Scott's
Okay.
plan. Yeah, Scott wasn't able to be here, nor Russ.
Right, yeah, it didn't make sense because your limit of work line is the dark line, broken line, so. So other than correcting that proposed 198 and then putting maybe a note that you're gonna stabilize that slope with riprap.
Okay.
I don't really have any other
Somewhere on here, but yeah,
comments
we will.
regarding the plan.
Okay.
So then, he's going to submit a new plan showing the riprap.
Yeah, I would submit a revised plan showing the riprap stabilization of the slope, removing that 198 proposed contour.
All right, no comment from me. Roger, do you have a comment?
Well, I don't see a drawing here that shows us exactly where this is on West Street. I know you got an awful long driveway here. I'm glad I don't have to plow it. But I'm not exactly sure where this spot is, other than it's away from the street.
What's it across from? Actually, do we have a,
Do you have that little map? I've got one here, but
we might have it on here.
There's a locus in the notice of intent that shows where it is.
I have the original septic system plan here.
Okay.
Shows exactly where
Excuse me, you can't.
I'm sorry, I just
Yeah,
wanted to, can I
that-
give you the plan?
No, you need to wait a minute, and the chair will ask if there's anyone
From
in
the
the audience.
Yeah,
And then you have to, yeah.
yeah,
you
and
can just hold
identify
on.
yourself. But,
You can see it's off of West Street, close to the railroad tracks.
at the last couple pages.
I'd like to see a little more detail. That's a,
well, he added contours, so,
yeah.
yeah, which
Yeah.
What do
apparently,
you want details of, Roger? What do you want details of?
Well, you've got here a little dot, but,
so you would have liked to have seen a locus on the plan?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd like to see more of these things.
I'm sorry, I think I took Roger by surprise by calling on him first.
I have the actual existing land survey if you want to see that.
The existing what?
The actual land survey of the entire property. If you want to see
Bring
that.
that up, I mean.
Yeah, you can come.
What street here?
Mhm. What's it across from the driveway? You told me.
And this is the road from the driveway coming in.
Yeah.
So West Street just goes this way.
Right. Okay, and there's the houses right there.
Yeah. Well, that's on here.
Right.
Mm.
Okay for the moment, Roger?
Yeah.
Or- All right, comments, media?
How many trees are you taking down? Do you know?
Approximately 20 to 30 trees, pine trees.
How many, I'm sorry?
20 to 30 pine
20 to
trees.
30, okay. All right, nothing else.
Any comment, Doug?
Um,
Oh, okay, Roger, wait, let Doug, and then we'll come back to you.
Yeah, I'm looking at this plan, and the existing septic system.
Mhm.
It shows the tank
Yep.
and the distribution boxes, I guess, the D box. But is the field
The two
right there where the
galleys.
dot is?
The two galleys that are shown, where it says 4 galleys, it's the
Yeah.
two rectangular,
That's the existing
the
field?
existing, correct?
Yeah. Okay. No, that was it.
Roger, did you have an additional comment?
No, I think it's a pretty lovely spot. You know, ever you. But, you know, I don't, that was my own comment, it's exactly where you were.
Yeah.
Are there any comments from anyone in the audience? And if so, please identify yourself. Are there any comments about anything, like septic systems or anything? Yes?
Yeah, I'm John Richmond, I'm the neighbor next door.
Okay.
I was just
What's your address, sir? Just,
971 West Street.
thank you.
And the only thing I was interested in, it's none of my business, but why would you want to be filling in 30,000 square feet just for the pool? So my concern is something else going to go in this area in the future? or-
No, behind the house is just,
Huh?
no, behind the house is just potentially a pool.
I know what you're
Outdoor
planning in the future, which is now.
Nothing behind the house.
Nothing to do with that at all?
Nope,
Okay.
nope.
So I was just curious as to, you know, I mean, that's 30,000 square feet, if 5 feet deep is, I don't know how many cubic yards that is, that's a lot of fill. So I was just curious as to why such a large area, okay? I've been spoiled, I've been there for 40 years and it's been pretty quiet, but that's a lot of truckloads of fill, so. I'm not against it, I was just, you know, okay? It's more the noise level. I'm more concerned about the noise level than the amount of trucks, that's all.
I don't know if it's our purview.
And the other issue I have is that his house is, I don't know how this works, but his house is on residential. A third of his land is residential and 2/3 of his land is approximately, I'm not positive of the amounts. 2/3 of his house is on rural. So as far as the bylaws go, does this land come under rural or does it come under residential?
That's not a topic for the Conservation Commission. We're simply looking at the work within 100 feet of the
that's what I figured. This is
wetlands.
just to make sure that he has permission to fill the land, which is,
Complying with the wetlands
yes.
protection
I
bylaw
have no
and
problem with that.
Walpole.
No issue with them at all with doing that. I was just in my own curiosity.
You'd have to talk to the building inspector.
Yeah, so that would be something I'd ask the building inspector.
Correct.
That's the only concern I had was that at this point, I was just curious, that's all. All right?
Any other comments? Yes?
I guess,
Oh, please identify yourself and tell us your address.
sure, I'm Nina Staley, 1025 West Street. To follow up on John's information, the surveyor was in my front lawn probably 6 months ago when they were due to buy the home. And we were told that they were planning on putting in a large shed, like a 3-foot landscape shed in the back of our property, and I'm just wondering if they're filling in here, well, at what point are we gonna be able to say, you can't put in that big a shed in a rural area, or who do we go to find out if that's possible?
Right, so right now, what's before the Conservation Commission is to put some fill and grade out the backyard of a single-family house within 100 feet of wetlands, and that's all
Yeah.
we have at this point.
Right, and one of the tricky things about town boards that people don't realize if they don't see them regularly is we're all very subdivided as to what our purview is. So we're strictly about protecting wetlands. If anything happens within the 100 foot of any wetlands, then they come before us and then we deal with nothing, almost nothing but that. So unfortunately, the procedure is that you've got to go around to different boards and people. So the suggestion is the building inspector. Any other suggestions of people that they might ask questions of? So you have to go to the building inspector for those particular questions, because we're just, it isn't within our legal right to comment on that for this commission. It's about wetlands. Any other comments from people or questions from people? Do you have a follow-up question, or no?
Again, yeah, everything that we're doing now is just for the backyard pool. Nothing.
So that's the other thing about the way these proceed, is it sometimes by increments. So, step one, level the backyard, and maybe step 2 down the road, a swimming pool or something. So things are done by increments, board by board. All right, so are we moving to close the hearing?
Yeah, if there's no other
Any other
questions or
comments?
input, you can.
So would someone like to make a motion to close the hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? 400. Okay, so,
So I don't have any specific special conditions, but I would ask the revised plans to come with just a note on the plan for stabilization of the slope and then taking off that proposed
198.
grade you're not going to be doing, and
Yeah, absolutely.
you just get us those revisions. So if you want to
Problem.
just vote, unless anyone else has any specials they want to add.
No?
all right, so do we have a motion for those order of conditions?
I'll make that motion.
Second? Second, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
400.
Thank you.
Thank you, thanks for your time.
This is just a request for minor modification.
Yes.
So it's not, you
So-
don't have to read that.
So I'm not reading this,
No,
okay.
This should just be
Okay.
a letter.
Right.
Here's the letter that they requested.
This letter.
Is that the letter? Don't scare me like doing
Oh, so I do have to do this?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know why I was thinking. So yeah, just open the.
Okay.
I will. Everything is slightly off.
Walpole Woodworkers.
And that's at 7:45 and
Yep.
you're fine.
Yep, we're doing good. All right. In accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 4, the Wetlands Protection Act and the Town of Walpole Wetlands Protection Bylaw, notice is hereby given of the intent of Pulte Homes of New England to amend the Order of Conditions DEP number 3151148 with a proposed clubhouse and associated site plan adjustments located at 767, 777 East Street, Walpole, Mass. Plans are on file with the Conservation Commission office. Public hearing on the above matter will be held in the Walpole Town Hall, 135 School Street, on January 22nd, 2020, beginning at 7:45. All interested persons are requested to be present. Planning Board's comment is that they voted 500 to determine the addition of a clubhouse to be a major modification to the original site plan. Therefore, a new application will be filed by Pulte and a new public hearing held. I assume that's for the planning board?
Yep.
Yes, okay. I also have town engineer comments. We've reviewed the plans and HydroCAD calculations and offer the following. The HydroCAD calculations provided appear to prove that the proposed modified basin is slightly larger than the original basin and performs at least as well as the approved design. The design calculations assume the most aggressive infiltration rates allowed under DEP guidelines. It should be verified during construction that the soils below the modified basin are well drained, sand and gravel as assumed. The proposed grading and drainage plan sheet 7 shows a riprap overflow spillway from the stormway basin that does not appear on the original design. We are not opposed to providing the overflow spillway, but question why this is provided at this point and not in the original design. Furthermore, if it was overlooked in the original design, it should likely be provided in the other stormwater basins as well. The approved plans contain a note requiring the drain pipe under the existing stormwater basin to be televised to ensure its integrity. We recommend this be performed and provided to Conservation and Engineering soon after the basin is modified. And then there's something from the planning board. And then Board of Health. Board of Health in its January 7th, 2020 meeting voted unanimously that the board's original opposition to new construction within the 100-foot buffer zone is now augmented with our further concern for the potential for mosquito-borne illnesses. The board urges the condominium association to adopt the standard best practices for mosquito mitigation and designate a person to work with the Norfolk County Mosquito Control, regularly cleaning of gutters and proper grading of the buffer zone to prevent low points that draw and hold water, and that biological tablets are provided for all sump catch basins found on the property. So do you have copies of these? Do I have another one as well? No, I don't think so. Do you have copies of these?
We do.
Okay, so, would you please identify yourself and, actually, Landis, what?
No, go
Okay,
ahead.
please identify yourself and, tell us what you're doing.
Sure. Hi. Good evening. My name is Reed Blute, and I work with Pulte Homes. And with me tonight is our civil engineer, Matthew Leidner from Civil Design Group. And I'll let Matt answer your questions. And we do have the certified mailing
Yes.
receipts.
We're not sure we have the right plans.
This is the
Okay.
right plan. The
Okay.
one with the green on it is the old plan. The
Okay,
one
all right.
without the green is the
Okay,
new plan.
all right. So this is a new clubhouse, and this is the new design of the basin.
What plan are you looking at? Drawing?
This is,
But you're correct.
This is the only one I think.
Number 7, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I put up the grading and drainage plan number 7,
Okay,
for the 1/17/20.
okay.
I'd be happy to walk you through the plans,
Yes.
as you have questions.
Yeah.
I think, generally, this is a change from what was previously approved, and initially, this is the location, as I'm sure you're familiar with, the old Walpole Woodworkers site. It was, 767 and 77 East Street, and this particular location where we are proposing the small clubhouse to be a private clubhouse for the residents of the community, and it's a one-story structure. It's approximately the location where the old 777 East Street building was, which was one of the office buildings that they used. If you drove in, the old Walpole Woodworkers was to the left of the main driveway, and there was a barn there and a parking area in the front. And that's approximately where this is proposed to be located. Pushed back a little from where the house used to be because, of course, setbacks. So the new setbacks required to be at least 50 feet back, any structures, and the old house was quite a bit closer. So that's the location, and that's what was there previously. And I'll let Matt walk you through the plan itself and answer your questions. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Matt Leidner with Civil Design Group. The best plan for me to talk from is actually that color plan which you have. So we did submit the fully detailed sheets that had changed, and I have them with me if there's questions that specifically you'd like me to go through. But at least to start, the plan here is that what's before you tonight. The proposed amendment is to add the clubhouse, which is the green area down here, so up near East Street, clubhouse, and take away what was previously approved, a property manager's office building back here, and then a gazebo up here. And so the clubhouse here will be in an area that is fully within the previously approved limit of work. So there's no change to the limit of work being proposed at all. We're just basically plugging this plug house into a spot on the plan that didn't have anything there, but for a gazebo. And so no change to the limit of work, doesn't require any grading outside of where we were before. That's why the limit of work is not changing. It does require us to slightly reshape this stormwater basin that's up in this area. So The green, it's probably a little bit difficult to see from back here, but the green is the reshaped basin. So we submitted HydroCAD calculations of that. It's actually, by reshaping it, it's slightly larger than it was. And so the flow leaving the basin at the study point with the amendment is actually, it's essentially the same, but it's actually slightly less than what was approved. The basin function is not being proposed to change at all. The outlet control structure is exactly the same. As I said, the size is slightly larger. It's still an infiltration basin, so nothing fundamentally is changing about it. We're just reshaping the one end of it a little bit here to account for the clubhouse, and then bumping this end out a little, but not changing that overall limit of grading. So there's no change to the treatment chain that was approved with the order of conditions. So the water that is getting into this basin in the proposed is exactly the same as the existing, but for the roof of the clubhouse, which we are proposing to send into the basin. So that will not just sheet flow off the property here. It will actually go through the basin and be infiltrated. And that's accounted for in the HydroCAD that was submitted. The approved plan had a restoration plan for portions of the 25-foot no disturb zone around the site, including up in this area, so nothing is changing with that. That's still all proposed exactly the way it was. No changes to that. And to I guess to keep it in perspective based on what was there previously, so the existing condition that was approved under the NOI, under the order of conditions. So this is that area of the site, and what I did for this is I turned on all the existing buildings and pavement and all. So the clubhouse is this green area here. So what I shaded orange here was all the former buildings, the parking areas. So it was all degraded area, and so we're still vastly reducing, what impervious footprint in this area of the site compared to what was there and what was approved under the order of conditions. We did receive the comment letter from Board of Health. So in response to that, the functioning of this basin is exactly the same as what was approved. There's no difference whatsoever to how this basin is designed and will function compared to what was approved. So I think they're concerned with standing water. This is designed per the DEP guidelines. That's drained within 72 hours, so there won't be prolonged standing water in this basin as approved. So we also received the town engineer's comment letter, and actually had a conversation with him, and we submitted a written response yesterday. I had emailed it. I don't know, Landis, if you had received that, but
I
we,
did.
okay.
I didn't receive it, but I don't think it got into the.
Okay, so we, so I'll run through them here. The first comment, the HydroCAD calculations appear to prove the proposed modified basin is slightly larger than the original basin and performs at least as well. So I did touch on that. He's correct, and that is how it will function. The design calculations assume the most aggressive infiltration rates allowed under DEP guidelines. It should be verified during construction that the soils below the modified basin are well-drained sand and gravel as assumed. Our response was, the infiltration rate utilized in our latest submission remains unchanged from the approved design, and the soil type will be verified during construction to ensure consistency. What I believe the town engineer didn't realize as well is that the former town engineer actually witnessed test pits out there. So these were not based on assumptions. They were based on 3 test pits that were done in the footprint of that basin, and it was sand. And I went back and reviewed the test pits. All 3 were sand. So that rate is justified, and that was peer reviewed by your stormwater consultant. So there's no change to that infiltration rate being proposed with this amendment. The use of riprap, let me go back. The proposed grading drainage plan shows a riprap overflow spillway from the stormwater basin that does not appear on the original design. We are not opposed to providing for the overflow spillway, but question why this is provided at this point and not in the original design. Our response, the use of riprap overflow spillways in the latest submission remains unchanged from the approved design. These were required by the Conservation Commission's stormwater consultant. It
Right.
was,
I reviewed the plan with Carl, so he saw that our set did show them.
I think he was either looking at a
That.
former set, but the plan of record that was approved by the commission does have those and has them on all the basins. So that element has not changed in the, on the amended plan. The approved plans contain a note requiring the drain pipe under the existing stormwater basin to be televised to ensure its integrity. Our response, the reference note has been retained in our most recent submission, so that note is still on there. The drain pipe will be inspected following the construction of Basin 1 to ensure its integrity. So there's an existing drain pipe that crosses under that basin that we propose to keep there. That's what was approved, and we inspected it prior to construction, and it was in sound condition. And the note is that, and the requirement that we inspect it after construction, just to make sure the equipment over the top of it and just the construction activities don't damage the pipe. And if they have, then we'll address it at that point. We're not expecting it to be an issue, though. It's a concrete pipe, and it looked very, very structurally sound. The planning board voted that adding a clubhouse was a major modification, and so a full submission will be required and more detailed plans will be submitted. So they did vote that, and so we have since submitted the plans that your commission has to the planning board along with our application for the site plan modification. So that's been done, and they now have the plans that you have. And that was it. So we responded to this, and then the town engineer sent an email back saying that he was all set.
Yep, I just concur with what the applicant just spoke. I did speak to Carl and go over the application with him. And the applicant has submitted adequate plans to show the revised construction. Originally, when it came in, I didn't think it was a minor modification because the reconfiguration of the basin, the concern with the existing pipe under the basin, and the revised calculation. So we did get all that in place. And it is, there's no differences from the last design to this design. Everything has been taken into consideration. And it's good to have the note that the pipe will be cambered after the construction of the basin, just to make sure everything is fine. So I'm good with it, and town engineer is good with it as well.
Yeah, and it is important to be careful, and I think you have been and diligent, because there has been concern from neighbors about potential runoff and flooding of property. So I think you've done your diligence with the engineer and making this amendment. Roger?
Not right now. You took my question,
Okay,
so that's all right.
all right.
I'm all set.
I'm comfortable with it.
Okay. All right, other comments from the audience? If so, please identify yourself and tell us your address. All right, so, would someone like to move to close this?
I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
All in favor?
Aye.
So are we doing anything else? Are we voting to accept this amendment? Is that what we're?
Yeah, so
Same package.
you're voting to issue the amended order of conditions
Okay.
with the revised plans
Okay.
as submitted.
All right, so can we have a motion for this amended order of conditions?
I will make a motion to amend the order of conditions.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 400. And we're signing.
Roger.
Is that right, Landis? They're all set? Yes.
Thank you, we appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Thanks for getting us on the meeting tonight, we appreciate it.
On to the next one.
All right.
Continue public hearing.
What?
Continue public hearing.
Oh, okay. In accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and the Town of Walpole Wetlands Bylaw, notice is hereby given by High Oaks LLC for the filing of an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation to review the wetland resource area located off of Delaney and Dover Drive, maps 11 and 12, parcels 49 and 84. Plans are on file with the Conservation Commission Office. The public hearing on the above matter will be held in the Walpole Town Hall, 135 School Street, on December 11th, 2020. It says 29. Oh, this is continued, 2019, beginning at 7:15 p.m. Sorry, Landis, yes.
Don't give me a heart attack.
Okay, you're getting me a heart attack. Okay.
All I heard
It's
was
continued.
panic in your voice.
Amy
I
just
didn't know what
nodded
was
her head.
panicking about.
Green light. New
I'll be
chairperson. Impressive.
There
All
should be no additional comments, because
Okay.
we were just waiting for the revised plan to be
Okay.
presented.
You want him?
Yes.
Yeah,
Do you want to open the hearing? Or did you already open
I think she just opened it. Can you identify yourself?
Rob Truax, GLM Engineering Consultants. This is, I emailed you this.
That's why I didn't have it. Mailed it to me, Betsy.
So, this, everyone can see.
Yep.
The area that was changed is down here behind the house on 35 Delaney Drive. So this, I left the old line on, as you can see here, faded, and then this is the new line that comes down. So if you went out there, this, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the area that comes down and then there's a culvert here that goes into the road. It's a big grass trail, correct? That's what that piece is.
Yeah.
So that's right here,
Oh, okay.
the grass swale and the lawn. So this is the area that we removed, and these are the new flags that came down to the corner of their
Oh, all right.
fence.
Okay,
So this is all part of the wetland there. So that's it.
okay.
Everything else is the same. The only thing I did do is I left the sewer on. It wasn't on your old plan. That was that sewer that went through the property we talked about.
Mm-hmm, okay.
All right, Landis, do you have any comments on this?
I don't, so, this revision was just to add the flags that, pulled in the area of wetlands that I observed in the field with the wetlands botanist from Ecotech that, when I went out to review it.
Mhm.
Shows those flags.
Everything else is the same. Yeah, everything else is the same. other than
Everything
that.
else was the same.
Okay, no comment from me, any comment, Raj?
There may be someone in the audience that
Oh,
might
yeah, we'll
have-
ask.
a question.
Looks good to me.
Yeah, I'm good too.
Okay, are there any in the audience comments? Yes.
My name is Richard Spellman. I live at 29 Delaney Drive in Walpole, and I received notification from the GLM about these meetings. I'm probably ahead of the curve here in terms of my concerns. I'm recognizing that you're just dealing with the conservation portion of it. What I'm concerned about is the building that takes place, which will be along that new stretch behind my home, that I'm not gonna have a problem with water. When I built a home here 20 years ago, I spent a lot of money and put in a French drain. I've not had a drop of water in my cellar for any time during those 20 years. And I don't wanna have this result in that being in a situation where I've gotta deal with. So I know that's more about the building and how this all is gonna unfold, but from a conservation commission, I'm just wondering, is this a concern? They build houses, is that gonna push water in other areas? It's gonna cause us to have water that we haven't had before.
Can you just show me where you live, if you don't mind me?
Yeah, go ahead.
I live right here.
Oh, right on the corner, okay, all right, yep. All right. And so this is the spot in the back of you that's like a little lull area? You go out in the woods.
I'm not even aware of this one. I was more of the issue of these, but that is closer to my property.
Yeah. These flow over in that direction, this flows down through here, but that's just the low area in the
Okay,
back behind you.
but my concern is, as the houses are built in through here and go
Correct.
up in this stretch,
Okay.
what's gonna cause the water to
Yeah, we haven't
not
got to that
fall?
point
I
yet.
understand that.
But I just wanna know
planting
where
the
you
seed.
are, so I'll keep that in mind when we do
Good.
the design.
I appreciate it. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
because one of the things is it goes step by step, so we
Yeah.
just got the delineation, we don't see any buildings or driveways yet. So keep yourself posted on next hearings. And-
Yeah, you'll get notified when we get to the next step.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Any other comments from the audience?
You only really need to.
So now we're in the hearing, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. That
I'll
motion,
make a motion to close the hearing.
second, Roger? Okay, second from Roger, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 400.
And then your motion would just be to issue the ORAD for the plan, wetlands delineation for January 20th, 2020.
Okay, so do we have a motion for that?
I will make that motion.
Any second?
What was the motion to?
To issue the ORAD for this delineation. And Roger just seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
400.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is, we're just a tiny bit ahead. Wow.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
right. Okay. Just-
Oh, it's 8:15.
Oh, is it? Okay. All right. In accordance with the Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and the Town of Walpole Wetlands Protection Bylaw, 561D2, notice is hereby given of the intent of Wall Street Development Corporation for the construction of a single-family home, 11 Boyden Lane, Lot 6, Walpole. Plans are on file at the Conservation Commission office. Public hearing on the above matter will be held in the Walpole Town Hall, 135 School Street, Room 112, on December 11th, 2019, beginning at 7:30 PM. All interested persons are requested to be present. So, we'll start with presentation. You can identify yourself, please.
Lou Petrosi for Wall Street Development. I'm here essentially to continue the hearing. At the last time we met, and I happened to watch the last meeting that you had, there was quite a bit of discussion about revisiting the wetland line on this lot. And it seemed to me that the commission was of the opinion that you couldn't evaluate the wetland line during this time of the year. So we have recently reflagged or located the old flags that were previously on the plan as Landis had requested, and we've staked out the 25-foot no disturb zone under the new flagging, and we're now prepared for any kind of site visit with our wetland person and the town's Concom agent to visit the site and verify the new line. I know that there's snow cover on the ground now, but next week there won't be any snow cover, and we would think that that would be an appropriate time for the two professionals to get together on the site and verify the line.
Right, and I think the discussion is, as long as there's not snow cover and we're able to, the ground's not frozen, you're able to get an auger in there to look at the soils. The other thing is, just reviewing your package again, and McManus submitted a DEP form, data form, at Wetlands Flag 4. So I guess when we go out there, we can take it, but what I'm looking for is more of the areas where the wetlands have changed. So in the Wetlands Flag 4, it really didn't change, so.
Yeah, again, you know, you and Paul can discuss that on the site. I'm not really familiar with any of how it changed or why it changed. I just know that it changed based on the survey that was done and the flagging that was done. And we'd like to take advantage of every opportunity that we have to reassess the placement of the house on that lot, because it does have some issues with the steepness of the backside of the lot. And as I said previously, that we're trying to make it a better situation going forward long-term for that property as we design the house for that lot.
And what helped me a lot today, since you couldn't really go out and look in the field, is I took both plans and laid them on top of each other to get a kind of idea of how the wetlands line has changed.
Oh, so you were out there today?
No, I just did this in-house. I took
okay.
the original plan and I took your new plan
Yep.
and overlaid them. They're both the same scale. So the pink area is the original delineation. So there's areas which used to be upland that are now wetlands, and there's areas that were wetlands and now they were upland. It kind of goes both ways.
Yeah, I don't, you know, again, I don't know.
So I would be interested in, so the DEP data form is at this E4 here, which is pretty much the same
Yeah.
for both lines. So it's really the areas
the
where
tip.
it's changed
It's just the
from
tip.
wet to up or up to wet,
Yeah.
which would be where the data would be interested in seeing
Yeah.
the data. So,
Yeah, understood. I mean, it's just, as I said earlier,
in
it's the
addition,
tip of the wetland that really is concerned to us, because it pushes the house further
Yeah.
back.
well, even if you kept the new delineation and kept the 25-foot no alteration area, there wouldn't be that much of a, well, there's a little difference, but not
Again, I'm
huge
just
difference.
asking
It's really
for,
the
just
waiver of
asking for a little relief from that standpoint.
Well, it's the waiver
Right.
of the buffer zone that is
Correct.
really gonna give you the space that you want,
I
going
hope so.
from 25 to 10.
Right, I hope so. So,
Because this is the original 25, this is the new 25, but the 10 is way back here, so that's really the difference. So I had just, and we can wait till it's continued, but I had put in my report, going to our regulations and your justifications for wanting the waiver, and sort of putting point by point of
did I put in there how special I was, that I was really kind of? Well,
we already know you're special.
Should
though.
so I'm hoping that, based on the weather forecast that I've seen, that the snow will be gone this weekend. And next week looks like a very clear, warm, 40s type of weather pattern. So I'm hoping that maybe you and Paul McManus can get out on the site and, go over your questions. And because I really don't have any idea how the wetland flags get flagged or whatever. We just go by what's
Yeah,
surveyed
right.
and put on the plan and how to place the house on the lot. We are going to try and make do with the flagging on Lot 2. We're gonna do the best we can with that situation and see what it gets us going forward, so. Anyways, I'd like to continue this hearing until 2 weeks, or,
Well, we're gonna have some comments, I guess, first. So it seems, we're gonna end up, I think, with two issues. One of them could occur next week. If the weather is not good, then Landis is not going out.
Correct.
And it's Landis's judgment call. Since the discussion that we had with you about going out in the wintertime to delineate wetlands, we've looked and found there are actually lots of other towns that do not delineate wetlands at all in the wintertime because it's inaccurate. And so one of the ironies would be if you think you've got an inaccurate wetland line, then to go out and get another inaccurate wetland line at the wrong time of year just seems a bit ironic. So Landis seems willing to go out if the weather is absolutely the right weather to do this properly, but if not. And then I have a question about what sorts of things would cause a wetland line to change? Was it just done poorly to begin with?
you're talking to the wrong guy. I have no idea. Some people are more aggressive than others in terms of flagging and less aggressive. I have no idea. The philosophy
Well, that's why I
of,
found it interesting that some areas which were wet are now up, but some areas that were up are now wet. So it's not even the aggressiveness.
Right, I have
It's
no-
that it's changed in both directions.
How could it be
but-
so wrong?
Well, I guess.
again, I have no idea. I hire people, they go out, they do the things, they put
Is
the
it the
flags
same
out.
person that you hired again?
Same people,
Okay,
same
so
firm,
what-
same firm.
Same firm, different
So
delineators.
I wonder what their explanation would be.
Because this happens. This
Okay, it
does
happens.
happen.
Okay.
It does
And as
happen.
far as the delineations go, I mean, we've currently have two pending situations in Bellingham and Franklin. Those commissions have gone out and done site evaluations with Bader as a peer reviewer. So these things are ongoing, but in those cases, we've had to postpone because of snow cover and same issues that we have here. So I'm hoping that between, the Landis and Paul, that they can get out there during a time that's suitable and we can get this process moving along. So I'll leave it up to them to.
And then there's a second entirely different issue, and that is, once this gets redelineated, which might or might not happen next week, are we doing anything with our 25-foot buffer? And but we're not talking about that tonight, right?
No, let's get the delineation
So you-
done first, and then we'll see what that gives us. I still would be, obviously, I requested a waiver. I'd like to see that if the commission could grant us a little relief in that respect. But, I know it's based on the comments previously that it's not a favorable request. So let's do it one step at a time. Let's get the wetland line verified, and then we'll have a conversation about what to do next.
Comment from Roger?
No, it's been continued, so.
Okay. Comment from Emilio?
Hasn't been continued yet, so.
Not right now.
Except is continued.
None at this time.
So then, to conclude, you're gonna use your judgment call? I mean, you're not gonna just, if there's snow covering it, you're not gonna go out?
Yeah, right,
If it's
right.
frozen,
Again,
you're not gonna
there's
go out?
Right, so we'll see how the weather goes, and
Yeah.
if it's good for going out there and taking a look at the the line, then we'll go out and take a look at the line. If there's not enough information out there because it's been changed so much, then that's what we'll observe. So
Right.
I'd be
So-
happy to go out with him and take a look at it, see what we have there.
Okay, so I'll send an email to Paul and you and get you together and see if you can schedule that, and hopefully the weather will cooperate, that will allow us to do it.
So do you I know, I did drive by there and I did see blue and pink flags out there, so I'm assuming those were the two different flags, and then
They haven't-
you have the,
I know they were there, I don't know what color flags they use for each one, I'll find out, and
you have the buffer.
stake, they should have staked
and
out
And the, at least the front.
of the
Okay,
box,
okay.
yeah, so
So I would, I'll work with the botanist to go out there, and then, I'd encourage either having a group site visit
Sure.
or individually going out there just to get an idea of
Yeah,
what this means if the commission decides to give a waiver.
right,
So that everyone has.
right. The tricky thing about scheduling a group site visit at this time of year, though, is
cold.
that it might be snow covered.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Right, so we just,
The next 10 days are good, though, trust me.
if you say so.
Okay, are there any comments from the audience?
These are all my pals, I call them.
Okay,
So
we're
we're continuing the hearing, yes?
Yes.
So would someone like to make a motion to continue the hearing?
I will make a motion to continue the hearing.
Second, all in favor?
To February 12th?
Yeah, let's try the
Yeah.
12th, and then see if it's not ready, we'll continue again.
45?
We already have something for 7:30?
Yeah.
Okay.
vote.
We voted,
You
400.
voted? Oh, I didn't hear anybody. Did you all just
Great,
nod?
thanks very much.
Aye.
Good night.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Silent, it was silent.
It's a
Okay, so now we have a discussion.
silent
This is the last thing we're doing. We have a discussion about the Brookside Village Condominium Trust.
Village Condominium Trust.
Concerning a retaining wall. So I'm not opening anything. This is just a discussion.
Correct.
Would you like to introduce the situation for us?
Sure, I'm Kevin Flannery, I'm one of the trustees at the Brookside Village. Armin Bisson, also one of the trustees, and Bob Atwood. And, yeah, we're concerned about the notice of non-compliance. Part of that had to do with this retaining wall on one side that butts up between the wetlands and the new car wash that's going in on Route 1. So there's a retaining wall there on the approved plans. It's supposed to be an interlocking block wall. Instead, they put boulders. The wall goes from, about a foot high or so down where I am, all the way up to 5 feet high, maybe even a little higher. And it's all boulders. The issue was before you very briefly in June. I remember that because it was the Bruins' 7th game, and I was stuck here as opposed to watching the game. The developer, one of the developer's representatives, put some photographs in front of you with regards to the wall. I think they were looking for some sort of a minor modification or something. And first thing someone here said was, well, where's the fence? There's supposed to be a fence on top of the wall. There was no fence. The second comment that was made was, we don't know how you built this wall. The plans say it's supposed to be the blocks, and we're looking at boulders. So come back to us and tell us how you did this. So we're wondering, have they, since June, have they come back? Have they reacted at all to that? I can tell you from living there, they haven't done anything to the wall. There's still no fence. We have made some written demands as we're trying to get them out of there, finish what they're supposed to do, and send them on their way. And we haven't received any satisfactory responses that they're ever going to do it or what. So I'm wondering, in a sense, what do you suggest for us? What can you guys do to force them to do what they promised to do?
So within the last few days,
Oh.
they did submit a letter from a structural engineer, regarding the wall. And they requested to be on the agenda, so they're on the agenda for our next meeting, February 12th,
Okay,
to discuss the modification, being the wall.
so, it's just a letter requesting, a date for a hearing?
With information regarding the structural wall from a structural
Yeah,
engineer.
they haven't given you any hints as to what they're going to say or anything?
They provided us with a package from a structural engineer.
So
It-
that's,
Can they
that's
look
the
at it?
next step of your request,
Yeah.
to clarify how the wall was built in response to the NOM.
Right, so they're on our agenda for the, February 12th to discuss
So
the
it-
issue.
it would seem that they're basically saying, here's how we built it, and it's an after-the-fact minor modification
Yes,
to the orders that were issued.
yes.
I seriously question the quality of that wall and its long-term take.
Well, then I guess it's too bad with the timing. I don't think it's appropriate for the commission to open up a whole conversation about what they've submitted when they're not here. And they've asked to be put on the agenda for next meeting. You certainly can come in and look at what they submitted to us at the office, but I don't think we should start discussing the
Sure.
merits of what they submitted here at this meeting because they're not here.
Would it be helpful between now and then if you
put the
took a
road
walk along the wall and made your own observations?
I've been there.
Apparently, it's gonna be
I've
beautiful
seen it.
next week, so, you know. you could-
Yeah, I know, I've seen it, I know it's there. So what they have to show is that they've built a wall comparable to the stackable wall that they had on the plan.
Yeah, I'll be interested to hear what you folks say, because, I mean, I'm no expert at all, but it's a long way from interlocking blocks.
I can leave photographs if you like them, that I took a few days ago.
Yeah.
There is erosion that's happening on that wall. And clearly the fence is a significant issue. We took over, the owners took over the trust in July, and we've been trying to get them to finish the work on the site. Paving happened in November. They did do some cleaning.
Yeah, it looks
Some
like
of
they
the
cleaned some
structures.
storm drains in the last
last
10
couple
days or
weeks
2
ago.
weeks or so, yeah.
Right. So it's been a battle, and 6 of the occupancy permits are still not final. And it's our understanding the building commissioner is holding them until he's satisfied that the town is satisfied.
Which I think is great for us, because there's not a lot that I can see that we can hold them to do this. That's our fear, is that they're gonna just say, you got your wall, see you later. And so we're hoping that you folks can help us out with that. And that's it.
All right. We'll have to hear their presentation.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Yeah, and if you can come next week, then you should come and, you can have input as to what they're,
Is there an actual time that,
I think they're just on their agenda as a modification.
Hmm.
So, it'd be after the public hearings.
Interesting on the timing.
Well, there won't be any important Bruins game on the 12th anyway, so that will be fine.
no.
All right, thanks.
No more
folks.
football.
All right.
Good night.
Thank you, Landon.
All right. Is there any other business anyone has? No. So would someone like to move to?
Move to adjourn?
Yeah, you want to move to adjourn, Roger?
Sure.
Okay. Want to second that?
No, let's just stay a little while.
It's too early to go home.
I'll second that, I'll
All in
second that.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?